What's good, everybody? This is Ian Walker. I am back here with another episode of the Chillin' Sketch podcast. I'm going to do a doing a live stream right now, and working on Pantheon issue 2. If you guys are not already aware, I am the author and creator of Pantheon, which is a project that I've been working on for quite some time. It is now on my Kickstarter. That information actually can be found here. If you go ahead and click that below there, and you go to that link, you should be able to get access to the Kickstarter there. So that is going on right now. The comic is done, complete first issue's done, but right now, all you'll be doing pretty much is pre-ordering for the book. So I have variant covers available as well as signed copies of the book available. I'm sorry, I'm so flabbergasted with the words today. I've got a lot going on. Trying to get my thoughts together. Got a little bit of a headache, but I thought I would go ahead and still try to stream today. One of the things that I'm going to be putting together is a comic book course, a very in-depth course, sometime later on in the year. But I thought I would go ahead and share some of my knowledge now, especially since I'm in the midst of it right now. So I thought I would go ahead and discuss scripting for my comics and how I go about doing it. And if you're watching later on, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or on Twitch, this will be some information that will be valuable to you if you are on the path to create your own comic book project. So before I get started, again, if you are on Facebook, please follow me there at the Art of Ian D. Walker. If you're on YouTube, follow me at the Art of Ian D. Walker. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button when I go live or when I put up a new video. And on Twitch, ID Walker Art. So twitch.tv/ID Walker Art. Okay. So, and I'm also on Instagram, which is the best place to reach me, because I'm always on the gram. And you reach me there, and I will, if you have any questions or anything like that, I'll be more than happy to help you out with that. Some other news coming up as well. I am currently on route to creating the first issue of my new online magazine, specifically for comic creators and podcasters, called Illustrata. So please stay tuned for more information regarding that. And you can actually, if you want to get more information, you can follow on the Chillin' Sketch Podcast Instagram page, which is the Chillin' Sketch Podcast, over at Instagram.com. Okay, guys. So let's get straight into it. We have the script here for Pantheon issue 2. You guys are kind of getting a little bit of a sneak peek of what's going on, and of everything here and how I go about that. So the second issue of Pantheon, the title of that one is called We Come in Peace. The first issue was called Sin and Repentance. And this is a story that is very succinct and very specific storyline that's being followed, okay? One thing I want to go ahead and share, actually, since I am here, when creating your comic books, and you're going through the scripting, the best thing that you should do as a writer, before you even get started, even designing characters and things like that, if you have a story in mind, the best thing you want to do is to create something called a plot overview. This is my plot overview. This tells you exactly what's going on in the story. What a plot overview does, or a plot outline does, is that you get a whole entire, pretty much synopsis of the entire story, and then you have your issue breakdowns of what is going to be in each issue, And and when you have this outline, it's going to be a lot harder for you to come across that writer's block. You're not knowing exactly what you want to write, not knowing exactly how you want to put something. The only challenges that you're probably going to have is when it comes to your uh, your dialogue, when you're explaining in certain things, and we'll get into this later. When you're describing things to your artists in that writing, what things look like, you may have some issues with that. But when it comes to story and accomplishing certain plots, you'll be able to do that with no problem. An outline also helps to prevent plot holes, things that are missing in the story that might not make sense. You can do a lot of your cutting and trimming in this stage as well, as far as what you think is going to be necessary to get the story moving, because pacing is actually very important. My story, Pantheon, is actually pretty involved, at least the first two issues. There's a lot of setup that's going on, because once the setup is done, this story is going to get moving. And there's a lot of things going to be happening rapid fire throughout the story in this first part. So that is why I highly recommend a breakdown of each specific issue. An example here of Sin and Repentance here. The story begins on Demos 9. We'll recount the exploits of the Demosians as they conquered their worlds and how they went about the initial conquest of Earth and the way they set themselves up as gods to humanity. The decisions to change their ways as species, to become explorers and students of the universe, and to undo the harm done to the worlds they damaged. Estelle leaves Demos 9 for good to go to Earth. That is the main premise of the first issue. Okay? So, as long as you stick to this, you should be fine. There shouldn't be an issue as to what you want to write or what needs to be written on there. And the way you decide to reveal this information to the readers is completely up to you. There's no set way as how it has to be done. But again, like I said, it makes the process a lot easier. And then as you get on to the next issue, you just pretty much go back to your main outline. You go back to your story frame, and you just go ahead and review it again before you get started with the writing. Are there things that you need to cut out? Are there things that you want to wait on revealing? It's just different things that you want to that you can tweak and do before you put everything to paper. Okay. And actually, in issue 2, what I have here, there's already a lot of changes that are made. So the synopsis is still the same for issue 2, but what I'm going to be doing is not exactly the same. So because I felt like there's something that needed to be done regarding character development and things like that, but it's still relevant to the story. Okay, so now if we move out of this area here, out of the outline, and go back to, let's see, I'm not going to show you issue 2. I'm going to go ahead and show you the finished script for issue 1. Again, nice little plug if you haven't already. Make sure you go to the Kickstarter there. This is the story that is being told in the first issue that is on Kickstarter right now. So if you look here, there's different styles of writing that you can do in your comic books. I know there's the Marvel method of writing where it is a big giant, blob of information, and then the captions, then the dialogue. That is personally a style that I enjoy because what it does is it kind of gives you freedom to do whatever you want. I myself am the artist of my own book, so I can make concessions like that. Communicating with your author is important. Or with your artist is important because they may have a certain style of script that they may be used to. So And that's not to say that you need to change your script style to match the artist that you've chosen, but maybe if you can help your artist to and explain to them how your scripting works and why you do it that way, you guys can be more in sync in that way. So I actually did two different writing styles on here, and this is called panel by panel style. The first page I did a panel one. I actually said what the camera, the shot needed to be in that panel. A wide shot of Demos 9 sitting majestically in the cosmos. So we knew this was going to be a shot out in space. One of the partially blocks the light coming from the green sun that illuminates the system. Now, first this was going to be a colored book. Later on, it evolved to become a manga American fusion style book. So so that change was made, but still, this example is good because we want to be able to keep the information here very specific, because again, you may have some writers or some artists who can't come up with things imagination wise. Okay, so telling them step by step what needs to be in each specific panel is helpful to them. Okay, so this is one writing style. Again, you have your captions, what's in those captions, and if there's dialogue there, you'll put what's in the dialogue. So again, here in the second page, the first page was only 2 panels. So again, I asked for another wide shot of the big city there, and again, more writing there. Now, one mistake that I did here that I did not do was I did not put in the name of the character here who's speaking in the captions. That's going to be important for the colorist, especially if your dialogue balloons are color-coded to the specific characters that you have. For instance, if you don't understand what I'm saying, is in a Batman comic book, generally Batman is either when he's speaking and narrating the issue, his caption boxes have a little bat next to them, so you know it's Batman speaking. But they're either going to be color coded a dark blue or color coded in a dark gray. Okay, and that is an indication that Batman is speaking. That's going to be indicated in the script itself here. Okay, so as a writer, you're going to want to make sure that you put that information there. Again, luckily for me, I did all the art for the book, so this wasn't necessary for me per se, but it's still a practice that you're going to want to do. So do as I do, do as I say, not as I do. Okay. So when I went into page 2, I changed the style almost immediately. I felt like the first pages were kind of restrictive for me because I found that I was trying to do exactly as it said. And I discovered that I was a writer, I was an artist that needed to have more freedom. So I could activate my imagination to come up with different angles on my own. Again, being my own writer for my own book, or being my own writer and artist for my book, I was allowed to have that freedom. Okay. So, but again, this is a practice that you're still going to want to try to have to still be as specific as possible when you're writing out your scripts here. Okay. So just as an example here of how this page went, it says a lone ship enters into the Ark and lands in the ship hangar. The hatch opens and a dark-skinned man dressed in ornate robes climbs out of the cockpit. Surrounding him are other soldiers, officers hoping to assist him. He walks out and makes his way toward the Concilium chambers, waving off any assistance offered to him. As an artist, the artist has the freedom to take this big description and divide it up on the page however they see fit. That makes sense. Okay. And then I have the dialogue here of what everyone is saying, who that dialogue is being spoken by as well. And again, the artist has the freedom. Well, if you have a letterer who's doing your comic books, again, I did everything. So what that does is that's going to give a guide to it's a good idea for the artist to give a guide to the letterer if there's a separate person doing that, to kind of show them where that dialogue needs to go. Okay. On a personal note, I would like to have, in general, to have the artist kind of block in where they see word balloons going, and then I would pretty much, as an editor, kind of look at that and see if that makes sense. It keeps along with pacing, and keeps it easy to read, because one of the things you want to do is make sure that your book is going to be easy to read. All right. So after they put all the information in there, the artist draws all of that in. The artist also blocks out where they feel that the word balloons might be necessary. This would then be handed off to the letterer, who will then take a look at all of the dialogue there. And if the letterer is having some trouble, what may end up happening is that there may need to be some cutting that needs to happen. Okay. And again, doing your own book, you fall into a trap of sometimes doing too much. I will tell you up front, Pantheon #1 is very wordy. And the reason why it's wordy is because I felt that this exposition was needed in order to explain the story up front. That way, later on down the line, there would be no issues as to, when something else is revealed or talked about, they're like, what is that talking about? I don't even remember something like that. It just come out of nowhere. I wouldn't have to worry about doing a trope of a flashback or anything like that. I wanted the book to be very straightforward. I wanted everything to be right there in the reader's face, explain to them everything. And so what I did was I used the characters to do that. Okay. So when you do that, you run the risk of having a very wordy comic book because they're explaining everything right away to the reader. Now, pray to God that your audience are readers. But in the general sense, you really don't want to have a wordy comic book. Comic books are a visual medium. You do need, and so it's very important for you as a writer and as a comic creator to make sure you're striking an appropriate balance between the two, making sure that there's enough dialogue to where it's interesting and you're telling a story, but you're also allowing the artwork that you're doing, that you're creating, to do some of the lifting as well. Okay. What's in Pantheon 1, the artwork isn't really going to tell that much of the story. So the words were necessary. And then there are some areas in the book where, the main character is talking and speaking, and there's a splash. There's actually a section there where the artwork is doing some of the heavy lifting, and you see that. But then, as we go back to character development again, artwork is not really going to tell much or help you to develop much of the character. That's where your words are going to come in. So again, as you're writing your story and you're putting all of these elements in, it's very important to make sure that you have these things kind of laid out. Make sure when you're creating your characters for your stories that you wrote out their personality traits, who they are. For example, the main character in Pantheon 1, his name is Vassell. The way I describe him is General Zod if he were a good guy. That's the personality trait. He's a black General Zod as a good guy. He is very loyal to his people. He is about his people, and he wants his people to be seen in the best light possible. But the mistakes that they've made, I'm not going to tell you everything. You need to get the book. But there are some changes that he felt needed to be made. So the book goes on that journey as to how Vassell finds these things out, what kind of attitude he has at the very beginning in comparison to the end of the series of this particular story arc, and how it's going to progress, as well as the new characters that are introduced and that come in as well, and how they all intermingle in Vassell's life. So remember, balance is very important when writing your comic book story. Let your art, when you can, let your art do some of the heavy lifting. Okay, there's gonna be parts in the comic, in the issue too, where there's not a lot of dialogue. It's just gonna be action, or it's just gonna be a lot of that. That's where the art is taking that on. And I don't like a lot of corny speech as well. So I'm not one to fall for that cliche, or a lot of talking during fights. If it's necessary, it'll be done. But in real life, nobody's holding a full conversation during a fight. That's just not happening. So you're not going to see that in my books. So, but what you will see a lot of is those that are the scenes that are not as dialogue heavy. The art will have certain details that it's very important for the reader to look for and look at, because those things may be talked about later on or brought up later on down the line. So again, and thus the art in essence is telling a story. So it's very important, especially in my book Pantheon, that you really look for those things and see that balance. Okay. So that's pretty much like a quick rundown of how I go about my writing of my comic books, and what I do so pretty much to go into now the tools that I use. There's a lot of people out there who use specific comic book writing tools, but all you really need is a basic word processor. Some people use Microsoft Word, some people use WordPad. One of my favorite things that I love to use Google Docs. Google Docs is free. They got Google, everything is just free. It's just out there. Google has the entire Microsoft lineup of products, but Google created them. So I take advantage of that. I highly recommend using Google Docs to do that. It works the same way as a regular word processor. It's easy to use. And what's nice about it is that as you're writing, it saves for you as you're writing. So any mistakes that you make or something like that, you just go back and save or whatever. And it's really cool that way. And that's where I also did use to create my outlines as well. You should not be, again, going back, you should not be putting paper to pen to paper if you do not have an outline for your story. You have a lot of people that have difficulties in their writing, and it's because generally they did not create an outline at first. Okay, so make that outline, write that out in your Google Docs, and then you can. Then your writing, you'll have like use your time with your writing. Let's see here. I'm trying to stick to things in regards to writing. If you guys have any problems, if you guys have any questions regarding anything that you're listening to here, please go ahead and post those questions here in the chat. And if you're looking at this later, feel free to go over to the Chill and Sketch podcast page and leave me a note there, or over at ID Walker Art Instagram page and leave me a note or a comment there, and I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. That's the best way to contact me there. Okay. So one of the things I think would be cool to do right now, especially for this. Let's go back here into issue 2 and go in. I'm actually already halfway through the second issue. My intent was to finish the book, try to finish the book, today, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself to the end of the week to do so. My deadline to finish it is the end of the month, but I want to finish this issue at the latest on Friday, so I can do that. Deadlines are super important as well. You need to set a deadline, a final deadline, and no matter what, you have to meet. What this does is it beats procrastination and gets you moving in regards to getting your project done. Okay. Unfortunately, as creators, one of our weaknesses is procrastination. Definitely mine. So, really set a date as to when you want to get something done, and do everything you can to meet it. If you get it done early, more power to you. You can either take that time to rest, which I definitely agree that you should do, celebrate it, and then get to work on the next project or whatever. Okay? When you are writing a project or when you're creating a comic book project, my advice to you is, again, not to do what I did. Okay? I've come out with a comic book before. It's more of an anthology of short stories of an original character I created called White Ninja Guy. I took all the little small comics that I made of the same character, put them together in one book, made it into the anthology White Ninja Guy Chronicles. That's what that was. I recommend doing that first. Come up with some short stories that you want to tell. A short story that's between 4 to 12 pages long, and do it that way. That way you could practice creating a script. You could practice creating and experimenting with different writing styles and find something that is comfortable for you. Okay, and then after you're done doing that, you continue on with that. And I say start small because if it's your first foray into going to comic books and you take on an ambitious project like myself, Pantheon is going to be a six issue, if you will, story arc. Okay, I got one in the can. Woo! But I got 5 more to go. I'm halfway through the second one. What can happen is life gets in the way. If you're not focused, if you're not determined on getting things done, and it's your first time doing it, you can easily get distracted. It's things you can put off. That can become a problem. And you can get frustrated, or you can get very easily overwhelmed. So I don't recommend taking on a project like this, having a series, that's 4, 5, 6 issues, if you're not sure that you're going to be able to keep up with it. Okay, start very small. Do some very small stories. If you can, try to find some people that are maybe perhaps putting together anthologies. Anthology is a collection of short comic book stories, and that people put together into a book. I recommend finding something like that, or just make your own. It's up to you. Make some ash cans or something like that. But start small. Learn the craft, learn the processes, and then once you get that experience, and once you get that experience, then you can move on to something much bigger. Once you feel confident enough that you can successfully complete the project. And again, I wouldn't suggest going straight onto a whole series. Make a 1-issue comic book, a one-shot. That is 22 to 24 pages long. Just do a one-shot, one-off story that's about something, and then you go from there. One of my favorite examples of one-shots that Top Cow used to do was something called Pilot Season. It's kind of reminiscent of when a TV show would have a pilot for a TV show, but for Top Cow, they would do a single issue of a brand new superhero or a brand new character, and they run it. And they put it in the comic book stores, and they would just pretty much let the public decide what more they wanted to see based on sales, based on feedback, all of those things. And if whatever the public went for, that's what they continued on with. So you could probably do something like that. You may have some ideas for some characters. You don't know if it's going to take off or if people will like it. Do a one shot, do a pilot of that particular book and see how people react to it. If they react cool to it and they want more, they'll let you know. They'll tell you. Okay? They'll tell you. And that'll be the motivation you're doing. Because in that way, also, you know that one, you're doing something that you like to do, you want to do, but also it's something that people actually want to see. For a creator, we never know. We always take a gamble when we're creating something because we don't know if it's something that people want. We don't know how people are going to react to the stories that we want to tell or that we're going to tell. We don't know if they're going to be boring, if they're going to be political, if they're going to be cliche, if it's going to be tropey, whatever the case is. We never know. And what happens is that, that criticism can stop on our motivation, and we can, be down on ourselves and, be discouraged to create. So we never want to put ourselves in a situation where that can happen, which is why I recommend doing one issue, a one-shot comic book, and just getting it done, and then letting the people kind of decide. Now, if you have a body of work that you are passionate about telling, that you feel like if you don't get this out your soul, your life will be for forfeit or something, or for naught, or you doing this thing for nothing, I would say that is the exception to the rule. Okay, you'll never catch me telling a creator not to do me. So if you come across a situation where you got this character where you're just like, oh my God, I gotta tell this story. I gotta let people know who this is. I just need to do it. And you're not worried about fame, you're not worried about getting popular, you're not worried about any of that stuff, then by all means, tell your story. Do you? That's what I'm doing with Pantheon. It was very important to me to have a full body of work and to create a superhero that I liked and that I wanted to see. That was a reflection of heroes that I've made up from my childhood, all culminating to this particular project here. So that's what Pantheon represents for me on a personal level. For me, it's a test to see if I can do it. I know I have the ability to, but can I actually do it? I wanted to test and prove that for myself. I'm 1/6 of the way there. So, and I'm going through it, and I'm doing it, and I'm enjoying the process. And it's quite nice because I've been a lot faster than most indie creators when doing it. So I'm all about that momentum. I do multiple things at the same time. Right now, I'm running a Kickstarter. Generally, a creator of a comic book is going to do one issue of a comic book, stop everything, focus just on getting the Kickstarter done, and once that's good or whatever, then they'll go back, take a break for a while and go back. And that's why with most indie creators, you'll find that some of their issues are spread out so far and wide. I don't want people to forget my character. You run the issue, you run the chance that people will forget your character unless there's something about your character that is incredible. You run the risk of having people forget about your character. And yeah, there are understanding that you're an indie creator, but I on a personal level, I don't want people to forget. Okay, I don't want them to not remember. So I don't want to take 6 months, a 6-month gap between issues being officially released and out in the public. So once Pantheon is printed and in the public eye and is done and completed, there's not going to be a 6-month gap. Hopefully there won't even be a 3-month gap. I want it to be, a nice deal between issues. And if that ends up happening, I'm just going to deliver the entire arc to you. And so I'm still on a personal level kind of debating what I want to do with the book, how I want to do it if I want to do separate issues, or if I want to do, or if I want to just come up with this first issue and then the next thing you see is the whole graphic novel, which will then give me more time to develop the second story arc and all of that. And I can then take that gap in time. I'm debating. But I don't want it to be too long. Okay. Again, as a creator, you're going to make personal decisions that are going to be very important for you and your product. And you always want to make sure that you put out the best that you can create. Say that again. You want to put out the best product that you can create. Okay? Your stuff is not going to be a Jim Lee, Michael Turner, Jeff Loeb, Joe Kelly, Joe Madureira, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby's status. It's not. You're learning. You're starting. The most important thing is that you take something, you get it done, you make it the best that you can in your current ability. Always be learning in the meantime and in between time. Because what you want to see is growth. I'm a perfectionist by nature. And as I'm getting older, my perfectionist nature is kind of curtailing. And the reason why is because my perfectionist nature has prevented me from doing a lot of things. So I could have been a lot further in my desires as an artist had I not been such a perfectionist. In my book, you're going to see some art in there. At first, it's going to be like, ew. But it gets better as it goes along. I kept that in there on purpose. The old me, just only 2 years ago, would have been like, there's no way in her. I'm going to keep that in my book. It needs to be perfect. It's got to be, which should be the case. It should be the best. It should be good. But again, this project, the reason why I kept it in there, again, is more so for me to see if I can do it and to show myself that I can grow and that I can do that. And I think that would be good for you creators out there that are endeavoring to kind of do the same thing, to do that for yourself as well. But I want readers and myself to physically see the growth between each comic book issue or each comic or each story that's being told in the arc. I want the reader to look at page 1 and be like, "Ooh, how rough, boy!" But get to the final page and be like, "Man, the dude shaped it up. Really knowing what he's doing, he's learning, he's taking those things on, and he's adapting." So I'm allowing that for myself. Now there may be some opinions out there who may think otherwise, and they're like, "Nah, you need to polish. This is a rough work, whatever." But my thing is, this is an indie comic. It's an indie publisher work. I'm not one of the big three, so I'm not going to have that quality, and I'm okay with that. I'm sorry, I'm not going to have that height of quality. I'm not going to have that level of quality. I'm going to have quality, but not at that level of quality as of yet. I'm trying. I'm myself. I'm trying. So yeah. So that's all I have to say about that. So I hope that this information is good for you and it's something that you can use. All right. So, final thing before I think we shut down for the day is I'm going to go ahead and write the page for page 13 of issue 2, so you guys kind of get a sneak peek at my process and my thought process as we do this. So there's going to be some times where I'm going to be probably silent, or I'm talking, That means I'm talking to myself. I'm gonna go ahead and just do it so that you guys can listen to maybe what's in my brain. So if anybody pops on and I don't respond right away, I apologize. I still will be looking at the chat, but just know that is what I'm doing. So the cell has reached Earth. He has made a friend here. Now, before, in this situation, a human has just met an alien. He's explained a few things to him. He's seen his ship. He's seen some things there. And he's made a proposition to him. And he's accepted. I would say maybe conditionally. It would be foolish. My thing was, I wanted to say that and accept it, but I also want to let the reader know, well, because me being a reader, I don't think it would make sense for a human that just met an alien to just be fully complicit in everything that he asked him to do. Now, he did show a display of power, which pretty much induced his decision as well. So I definitely want to make sure I take that into account with my character here. There's Vassell and then Aran. So there's a few things that I want to touch upon, and it's something that I found that a lot of comic books never ever mention going to. I want to be, and it's not going to be a whole lot, but I want it to be just enough to where it's going to be like, okay, thank you, because seems like every time an alien lands on Earth and they have these powers and stuff, they just Mary Sue it, man. They just like Power Rangers. They just get it. They just on there. They just get it in and they got used to everything. I want this to be different. So give me a moment. So again, forgive me for my silence. So I might make this a few pages because there's so much going on. It's kind of like the issues montage, if you will, like a TV show, movie. Ship. I'm gonna do something fun here. I'm gonna press a button on the ship and make a holographic change. Make it look like a mansion instead of or either a rock type compound, something to camouflage the ship. I don't want to do invisible. I think that's cliche. So I think having a holographic image that makes the ship look like a big gigantic mountain would be neat. Thus give us some inspirational Phantom vibes from the Phantom. I love the Phantom. The Phantom is one of my favorite pulp heroes. We have, this is going to go through a few pages. I'm thinking this will probably go for about 3 pages long. So 13. I will have one. I will have one. might end up being more pages. I don't know. So Vasel's not blind, but again, he has an excruciating kind of like a pain, like a chronic pain in his eyes due to the sun's radiation and his and the light the spectrum of light on Earth. It affects him. So I think that would be something unique, which then would give him an inherent weakness regarding his senses that could prove to be a problem down the line. Something simple, but nothing too overwhelming. He has other things that can help him, of course. He's a trained soldier, so that's not going to be too big of an issue. This is going to take a few pages. This issue, this thing's probably going to be about 20 pages long. Because it's all pretty much just telling a story throughout the whole thing. And then after this should be the reveal. just make this the people the country has landed in. Guyana people. So, again, because I'm telling the story, it's going to be 13, 14, 18, 6 page storytelling. So in this area, we're going to see how the art is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting here. See, we're coming up on that hour. We've got 2 minutes. So looking back. So I'm going to cut it off here. I'm going to continue with creating everything here. Creating my story here off camera. But I want to say thank you to anybody who is looking on at the moment, who's been watching this episode. I hope the writing tips that I shared with you is something that you can benefit from and that you can use in the course of creating your own books, and hopefully be able to see some of your own stuff in the future. It'd be cool. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, contact me on Instagram at IDWalkerArt on Instagram, or Instagram.com/The Chillin' Sketch Podcast. Be sure to follow me there in both of those places. Leave messages or DMs to me. I will respond at both places as well. So don't hesitate to leave me a message there. Follow me on my other socials as well. On Facebook, Art of Ian Walker. On YouTube is The Art of Ian Walker. And on Twitch at IDWalkerArt. TwitchTV.IDWalkerArt. Kickstarter for Pantheon 1 is up and going. So please make sure to support that by getting your pre-order your copy of the comic, and those who support will get a little extra stuff for being a support there. Okay. So with that being, and the patreon.com/IDWalkerArt. Join the art club there and get some stickers and get some art once a month from me as well, whether through digital sent to your email or in person through 5x4 prints more. So patreon.com/IDWalkerArt. Okay. So I appreciate you guys so much for joining me today. I hope this was an informative episode for you. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys later. You guys have a good one.